In today's video, I will be going over 19 patterns that I have found and collected in a bundle on Ravelry of sock patterns that I want to knit in 2025. Now, I'm not going to knit 19 patterns in 2025. I am going to knit 12. And I haven't made up my mind completely about all the patterns. There are 16 patterns as such, and then there are 3 techniques that I want to try out. So let's get started. Okay, so here on my screen, I have pulled up the Ravelry bundle that I have collected for this episode. And what I have is 16 patterns that I'm considering knitting. That's the word. And then there are 3 techniques that I want to use. Now, let me start by going over the 3 techniques, and then I will go over the patterns afterwards. So here is the first technique. I would like to make a split toe tabby sock. And the reason why I want to do that is that I actually quite often here in Spain wear my, what are those, Birkenstocks in the winter. And it really annoys me to not have a sock that has split for the big toe when I do that. So I'd like to make a pair of socks with a split big toe, and I found this pattern today, and it's free, and I'm gonna use it. It's toe up, and I usually would knit my socks toe up because it's actually kind of silly. I usually knit toe up because then I can stop when I get bored. Like after I turn the heel, if I don't want to continue knitting, I can just make a cuff and then I'm done. So I don't have to make a leg. And if I'm knitting cuff down, then I have to get to the toe, otherwise it's not a sock. So that's actually like the entire reason why I knit toe up. I also usually knit 2 at a time. I haven't done it in the last 2 pairs of socks that I've done for various reasons, but that's the same thing. If I knitted 1 sock, I'm not going to knit the next one. And so knitting 2 at a time, even though it takes longer, is a better way for me to actually get done. I'm also just gonna put a caveat on this whole YouTube channel. I'm also putting in the minimum amount of editing that I can get away with. And the reason why I'm doing that is if I have perfectionism over here and I have ADHD over here, the ADHD tend to win out, because if I let my perfectionism rule, then I get nothing done. And so I need to get stuff done. And the only way to do that is to accept that I can probably not do it as well as I would like to, but that's okay. That's how I roll. So I'm probably not going to edit this a whole lot. I already recorded this video once and I was streaming it to my computer and the sound was awful, and then it glitched, and it was just a whole thing. I was not happy. So I'm doing this again, and I'm hopefully getting this to be a bit more, what do you call that? It might be a little bit more shorter and more concise than it was the first time around. Okay. So I would like to make these socks, or I would like to make this toe, and that can go with pretty much any sock that I have here. I would also like to make the diamond heel sock. So sometimes I buy a pattern just because I like to see the technique. Here I bought a pattern because it had a technique. This is only a technique for the sock. And I wanted to see how it's done, and now I can apply that technique to pretty much any sock I want to. I think diamond heels are really, really pretty. I'm also really into the under. It's like a half diamond heel where you have the underfoot gusset, so it doesn't interrupt your stranded color work, and then you have a regular heel flap. And one of the things I really want to do this year is to explore various kinds of heel techniques. The best sock I ever, the best fitting sock I ever made was when I made a couple of years ago the Stephen West sock cow, and it was not an eye of partridge heel because it was almost garter stitch, but it's that heel just sits so well on me that I want to find a number of different socks that sits that well on me. I actually genuinely thought that homemade socks could not fit well. And after having started knitting my own socks, I have discovered that that is not true. And that brings me to the third technique, I think is what I would call this. So this is Summer Lee's Comfort Core sock set. And I really want to make these. First of all, I love Summer Lee. She's so funny. And also, many of her socks are so pretty. I'm not gonna subscribe to her whole subscription box because I would feel boxed in. I would feel like I had to make. It's not a box. What's it called? Her sock pattern subscription thing. I would feel that I had to make her pattern every month, and I don't want to. I don't want to be limited in that way. I want to be free to choose. So, but I really like this pattern and I want to use it with some of the socks that I'm going to knit. Okay, so I have already knitted two. Well, I knitted one and then 3/4 of another set. So this was, and I talked about that in the last episode, this is socks number 3 by Kerstin Balke. I don't know. Is she American or is she Swedish? Maybe her name is Kirsten. How do you say that in English? Kirsten Balke. I don't know. From the socks book that I also inherited from my mom. And so these are the socks. I can't see myself on camera because I'm just taping this on my phone because that's the best quality I get right now. So these are the socks that I made in January. And I am so happy with the result. Like, I don't actually like the variegated yarn this is made with, but I really like the result. And so that's what I made in January. And another thing I want to experiment with is binding off, because I never really found a bind off technique that I was happy with for socks toe up. I've been using Judy's surprisingly stretchy cast off, and it flares too much. This one is Judy's sewn cast off. It still flares a little bit. I think I can cinch it in more, but I actually think that it's easier with like a regular tubular bind off to cinch it in more, and then it wouldn't flare. Maybe I just need to practice this bind off, but I think it's easier to get a tubular bind off to look nice, honestly. So that was January. In February, I have been working on these. And they are the tartan socks. The tartan socks by Beatrice Mess. And I was waiting, really waiting for her to publish this because I wanted so much to be a test knitter. And I was too late. I mean, she published her test knit in the morning, and in the afternoon it was full. And she's in Canada and I'm in Denmark. So by the time I saw her call for test knitters, it was already full. So I made it in this teal. That teal I used in the Steven West pattern too, in the Steven West sock mal. Let me just pull that up. Blast socks. Here they are. So this here is the most comfortable heel I have ever made. And I used this teal in this pattern, and then I used this rose pink. What do you call it? And they don't really go well together, honestly. This is not a very good color. But the golden here with the teal, oh my god, I love it. I love it so much. And this heel on this sock is just amazing. Like the reverse stockinette stitch with the stripes, it is just to die for. I'm not really happy with my stitch definition or my gauge. I don't keep gauge right up to this braid, and also honestly I'm a bit worried about this braid, like if he's gonna step on it and not like it, but we'll see how that is going to work out. So the next socks are the Ugly Duckling socks. Well, actually, this pattern that I have here is more like a recipe. It's not a pattern. It is Charissa Martin Cairn, and it's a free pattern recipe for toe-up socks without swatching. But the reason I originally saved it on Ravelry was because I thought it was the Ugly Duckling socks. And the Ugly Duckling socks look like this. And they are made out of a variegated yarn that you don't necessarily like very much, which is this. I'm not a big fan. It's not bad as variegated yarn goes. I'm not a big fan of variegated yarns, to be honest. It's not bad. But once it's knitted up, it's just too busy for me. But if I take it with this and then make that pattern, I think it's going to be good, right? And I can't see if this is true to color. So I'm just going to have to trust the process. So the reason why I say all the time that I can't see is I had set my camera up to stream to my computer, but my cable, my USB plug-in for my phone is broken. So if I try to do that over the USB cable, sometimes the video just stops, it freezes, and then doesn't work anymore. And then then I have to start over, basically. And that's not, and I can't even predict how long it's gonna record. Sometimes it records like 2 minutes, and sometimes it records say a half an hour. And I don't know when. And it's not even that I accidentally touch my phone and then it stops streaming. So I tried to stream over Wi-Fi, but then I don't know if it was the phone or my Wi-Fi connection or something. Then the sound started lagging, and then the sound just stopped, and it was just a whole big mess. I'm not doing that again. So I need to find a different setup, because I can't see if I'm sitting well with respect to the camera. I can't see if the colors come out right. I can't see anything right now. But I don't want to wait recording this until I have all the things lined up to be so that the video can be perfect. I want to start doing this immediately, And then as I get better at film editing or as I get better equipment, videos might get better. It is what it is. I'm just going to live with it because, we need to start doing stuff instead of being perfectionists. That is the lesson for today, I think. Okay. So, that pattern I am going to make for a young man who uses size 44 in shoes. I hope I have enough sock yarn for his giant feet. But I'm not bullying. It's just big feet. It's okay. We can live with that. But it's gonna take a long time, and I want to finish so that I can send the package off to Denmark by I don't know, 14th of March. But I think I can do that. If I finish the tartan socks by March 1st, then I think I can do these socks in 2 weeks. That shouldn't be a problem. It's not a hard pattern to memorize, right? Okay. So then we're done with March. In April, I want to make a pair of socks for my daughter. And I found these on a podcast that is run by Susan Longman. Let me just click on her name. And I think her podcast is also called Ash and Eve Designs. Something like that. And for Valentine's, she put this up for free. And it's still free. So you can also go get it if you want to. And I think they're really, really cute. But what I wanted to do with them, that's not it. I wanted to do it like this. I wanted to do it with a neon colored background and then a pink sock yarn. I would have liked the pink to be solid, though hand dyed like this one. But this is what I have, and it's good enough for me. I think they're going to be really, really, really cute. I want to make them only on the cuff, like she has here, because I want to combine them with, let me get back here, Summer Lee's Comfort Core socks. And the reason why I want to do that is because my daughter has said that she doesn't wear her wool socks when she's wearing shoes because they're too thick. And so if I only make them with stranded color work on the cuff or the leg, then the foot is not going to be too thick. The last 2 pairs of socks I made for her have had color work on the leg. No, on the leg and the foot. And she says it's too thick. Like the first pair I made in size DK yarn because they were meant to be home buddy socks and like bed socks and stuff like that. And the second pair I made with thinner yarn. I actually made it with this pink. So and then a number of like different colored sock yarns so that it was like rainbow colored color work on it. But she doesn't like to wear it in her shoes because she says it's too thick. So if I make the Comfort Core sock set for the foot, and then I make this heart pattern on the leg, and then maybe this on the blah. If I make this with the pink, and then the sock is the green, and then I make the Comfort Core on the foot, I think they're gonna fit her absolutely perfectly, and I think she's gonna love it. Okay. So next up are socks for my son, I think. Yeah. let's do the socks for my son. I want to make him these. And I found them the other day on Pinterest. And then today I went in on Ravelry to, well, I just followed the link to Ravelry. And then I discovered that they're free. So I downloaded them and I'm like, this is what I'm going to make him. And I think the skulls are going to be green. And it might be this green, or if I have leftovers, this one. My daughter has feet that are almost as small as mine, so I'm not going to use all of this for her socks. And I might even do the same with his socks that I'm doing with hers. So make the comfort core foot and then only put the skulls on the cuff. And then do it in green. And it might be this really, really luxurious that I think is like merino. It's a merino hand-dyed sock yarn. Really lovely. Or it might be this poisonous green here. I'm gonna wait and decide later on. So now I have a January, February, March, April, and May. So in June, I want to knit a pair of socks for my husband. And I have, in fact, never knitted anything for my husband. And the reason why I haven't done that is because he's super sensitive to wool. And I don't like knitting with anything but wool. And in some instances, it's snobbery. And it's also because I don't like touching acrylics. Like, I feel it is it's making as much noise in my fingers as this chair is making in my ears. It is awful to touch acrylics. And I know that many people say, oh, you can get super soft acrylics. And it still makes me, it feels like when people, running a nail over a blackboard or stepping on sugar, I can't have it. And I also don't like knitting with cotton very much. I don't like plant fibers very much because they're non-elastic. And I have had carpal tunnel syndrome for many, many years. It's much less now, but that means that I have been really, if I wanted to knit, have had to take very good care of my hands in order to be able to knit at all. And knitting with cotton is just not really an option. I don't really like it because it's so inflexible. But my mom has actually knitted socks for my husband. And she used this, I think it's Shepard cashmere yarn or cashmere sock yarn. So I don't think it's 100% cashmere. I don't know. Truth be told, I don't know if it's 100% cashmere. But there is 300 grams of leftover various sizes of balls in her stash. So that is at least 3 pairs of socks for my husband. And by the time I knitted him 3 pairs of socks, I think I would be able to defend buying another skein of this. Because he actually uses it. He's actually happy about it because he's got constant cold feet. My husband has a hereditary anemia, and he's always cold. And poor man can't wear wool. I don't know. But he can wear this cashmere. I think it's cashmerino. That's my bet because he can wear it. My husband's socks will be this manly Aran socks. So my husband is also very, very, very conservative. He likes this kind of, well, I think he would prefer a vanilla sock, but I'm not knitting vanilla socks because then I'll never finish them. I have knitted vanilla socks before and I get bored. So that's not going to happen. So that is the plan for June. And then my plans become a little bit more sort of not as panned out as they could be. They're not as panned out as the first 6 months of the year. I pretty much know what I want to do. And now then I'm not so sure anymore. So I have found a number of colorwork socks that I really, really, really like. These I found this morning, and they are just so pretty. And then they also have a very interesting heel. Now, I'm really into heel construction these days. Like, I don't know what it is with the heel constructions that make me like so interested. I think it's kind of like my engineering brain that just goes, "Oh, how did they do that?" And how, But so I found this account on Ravelry this morning called General Huck Buffer, and I don't I haven't actually looked much into them before, which is kind of weird because I have looked at a lot of their patterns before. I know that for sure because I know I have looked at this sock. Isn't that heel just construction just amazingly interesting? I have no idea if it works. Truth be told, I can't say if it works, but I think it is very, very cool, and I want to try it. Maybe not this year, but I want to try it. I have, I've just seen a lot of really interesting patterns on here that I think are so super cool. So, another one that I found from them is this one. Again, it is also free. This is not actually a sock pattern. This is just a stitch. Like, it's just a stitch pattern. And it is meant to make color gradients. And I don't know if I have any yarn that would make a really good color gradient. Like, maybe technically I could take, if I have any leftovers of this, and I have maybe a green that lies in between. I don't know. But I would like to make a color gradient sock one day with this pattern because I think it's cool. I think it's really, really cool. And it sort of appeals to my mathematical, logical mindset. Like, it's kind of how a computer would make a gradient. So I think that's cool. And I want to make that at least someday. But that might be one of the patterns that I won't make until I have a gradient that would work. I mean, technically, I could, if I just take this pink out, I could do this. That's a gradient that will work, but it's kind of boring, right? It's gray. And I like to use my grays with the variegated yarns, of course. So I don't exactly know what to do with that. Okay. I also have this that I also found very recently. It has this really super cool triangular heel that I really love. And so it has a triangular gusset on the heel, and then I think it has like a heel flap or something under the heel, which I find very interesting. So I think basically you knit this almost like you would a toe up sock, a heel flap and gusset sock. So you make the gusset here, and then you knit two together every time you get to here under the heel until you knitted all the extra stitches together and then knit down. I don't know, but you know what? It's also free. So I really want to knit this. And I think it could be really cool actually in white with some variegated yarn. I have a lot of patterns that I think could be really cool in white with some variegated yarn. Let me just take all of them one by one. There's this one, and then there's this one, which is just so cool. I mean, in white and black, it's also really cool. I could also make this with the toe, with the split toe, because this would be really cool to just wear up with Birkenstocks, right? These are Optical Illusion socks by Laura Farson, and I have it from this book. I have this book, and it's really cool. Most of the patterns, as far as I remember, are slippers, but there are some socks in here too. I don't really like knitted slippers because I think most of the yarns, I mean, unless you felt it, most of the yarns will break up really, really quickly. And I've done it before, and then the slippers just break so fast. So, this again, I think would be really, really, really cool in a variegated yarn. I also have this book. Now, like everything in this bundle is in my library. I have the book. It's Toe Up Socks for Everybody. I've had it for like 12 years. I think I knitted one pattern in that book, which is really stupid. And I've been in, so I've signed up, or whatever you call it, for Needles at the Fret Ready and Piece for Piece, and one more podcast has a From a Book Now running all of this year. And I'm gonna try to make a pattern every month that I can present in that group, because I think it's really good. It's a really good idea. I think it's a really good idea to encourage us to make stuff from books. Because most of us have a lot of books, and then I don't know, at least me, I don't tend to use my books. I use them as coffee table books, or I use them for inspiration, but I don't use them to make anything from, which is silly because I mean they're not cheap, right? So, yeah, so I have a lot of like variegated yarn combinations that I can use for these stranded colorwork socks. I have white and this is again a really, really lovely luxury merino yarn, variegated merino yarn. But again, I'm not a big fan of variegated yarns unless I use it in colorworks. I can also do this, which I think would be really good in that pattern. I can also, I have this black and this rainbow that works really well together. And I have this red with this sort of dusty red and green and blue and gray that I also think works really well together. And then I also have this and this gray, I think. Well, maybe the darker gray actually here. This will work really well together, I think. So I have a lot of options for these stranded socks. Like I said, this is from the Toe Up Socks for Everybody book. And then I have these. These are super simple. I think if I'm going to make them, to be honest, I think I would prefer to have a self-striping rainbow yarn with it. I think that would be so, so cool with these socks. So I think I might postpone this to next year, but I really do love it. And I really do want to make it at some point. And I could do this maybe with the rainbow heel. I think that will work. I mean, the pattern is a short row heel, but I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. So this is from the socks book, and I have quite a few from the socks book. So the first pattern that I showed here, socks number 3, are from the socks book. I also have this. Is this called Argyle or something like that? Which is also from the socks book. And I want to do this also in a solid and variegated. I think I would probably just make it 2 colors. On the other hand, like if you have very small leftovers, it's really cool to be able to make a pair of socks with like 4, you know, like for me, I use 70 grams, not even. Well, for me, no, not even 70 grams for a pair of socks for me. And so if you use 4 different colors, then, I mean, what are we down to? Like under 20 grams per color. So you could use minis, right? Or you could have small, I don't know, smaller leftovers that you use to make it. Or you could just use 2 colors. It doesn't really matter. But I think the Argyle, is that called Argyle? I think it's called Argyle. Style is really cool. And then there's this. And then this is again, also from the socks book. And here is 4 colors. Again, you need very little yarn to make a pair of socks with 4 colors like this. So you could really use up some leftovers. You could also just make it in 2 colors, like whatever floats your boat, right? Or maybe 3, because you need something here, right? But I think they're really, really cute. And I really like stranded colorwork socks. So those would be for me. Okay. And then we have one last pair of socks. And it's these. And I actually have been going back and forth about what yarn I wanted to use with it. No, I have 2 pairs of socks left. I have these, and then I have a pair that I have on Pinterest that I haven't found on Ravelry. If anybody can find it for me. So, and I'm not sure what to use with it. But actually, I think if I have enough yarn left over, because I've already used this yarn several times, but I actually also think I have a whole skein more of this neon green. So I think this gray and the neon green will be a good bet. Our final pattern in my Ravelry bundle, and this is the film reel socks, which is another free pattern, and I think it is so amazingly cool. And I found it yesterday and I just fell in love with it immediately. So one of my many skeins of white sock yarn and a little bit of black sock yarn, and then some of the variegated yarns, I don't know which, but I'm definitely going to make this. And maybe for me, and maybe for my daughter, or maybe both. Look at these. Aren't they just cool? And what a great way to use up some of your variegated leftovers, right? I love it. So that was the last pattern in my bundle. And then I'm just going to find on Pinterest another pattern that I also want to make. And that is my Christmas pattern. I actually wanted to go to Pinterest because I thought I couldn't find this pattern on Ravelry. And then when I went to Pinterest to find it, I couldn't find it in my sock knitting folder, which is really weird because I think I've saved it like 5 times in my sock knitting folder. But I went to Pinterest to look for it, and so when I started searching, this came up, which is the pattern, but on Ravelry. So here it is. My tomteparad. I think that's what it's called in Swedish. This is then not Santa's, but Swedish, Danish gnomes, elves. That is a contentious subject because whether our little house elves are gnomes or elves, they're definitely not elves on the shelf because those are creepy. I'm just saying. But I want to make this pattern. Though maybe not with the elves all over the sock. I think I want to make most of the sock just like gray. And then with the red, I have like so much of this Christmas red. My mom loved Christmas socks, or she loved Christmas colors. More white. And then I have a little bit of leftover pink from my Stephen West socks that I'm going to make the faces in rather than make them gray. But that's my December project. I really, really, really want to make that in December. And so that brings us to the end of the year. If you have any ideas of what I should make rather than the ones I've come up with, please leave a comment down below and tell me what socks you think I should make. Because I mean, I can always look for more patterns online. And I can always fall in love with more socks because I have fallen in love with knitting socks, especially stranded, or maybe not only stranded, no. Colorwork socks. It doesn't matter if it's mosaic slip stitches or stranded or maybe even intarsia. Let's wait and see how I feel about that one. But I have really, really fallen in love with making socks, and I never thought I would. And I think it's because knitting vanilla socks is just not my thing, but knitting colorwork socks really is. So what kind of socks do you like to make? Or do you even make socks? I am really taken a new liking to this concept, and I think I'm gonna continue to explore it. I kind of thought that Summer Lee was crazy for just knitting so many socks, but now I have more socks in my Pinterest sock folder than I think I will ever be able to knit. And the more socks I knit, the more ideas and more patterns I find that I want to do. So leave a comment, and if you want to, like and subscribe. That helps out the channel, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye.